Welcome to Tech Voices. My name is Drew Bond, and I am the president and CEO of C3 Solutions. At C3 Solutions, we are the conservative coalition for climate solutions, where we like to highlight and promote free market solutions to the world's greatest climate, energy, and environment challenges. This is a part of our educational series we call Tech Voices, where we get an opportunity to interview some of the most cutting-edge CEOs and leaders and technology companies from around the world. And so we do this as a part of our educational mission. Please, if you want to learn more, visit us at c3newsmag.com, where you can subscribe to our online newsletter, and our parent organization is c3solutions.org. So with that, let me introduce our special guest today, Clay Sell. Clay is the CEO and director of xEnergy. And xEnergy, we're going to learn a little bit more about today, is a nuclear fuel reactor company and also engineering design company. And Clay comes to this with just an incredible background, having worked in the White House for President George W. Bush, also was then Deputy Secretary of Energy and president of Hunt Energy Horizons. So Clay, it's so good to see you today. How are you?
Drew, it's great to see you, my friend. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure. So Clay, one of the first questions I've got, which I'm sure some other people have, our watchers and listeners out there, is how did a guy from West Texas become the CEO of a nuclear energy company?
It's just good fortune, Drew. I was in the right place at the right time. I worked for some individuals that really shaped my career. Pete Domenici in the Senate. I ran the Energy and Water Appropriations Subcommittee for him. The fact that I worked for him led me to the White House, working for George W. Bush at the National Economic Council. After 2 years in the White House, I got the opportunity to serve as Deputy Secretary of Energy in the second Bush term, where I really got to lead the policy development and on nuclear power, and really become the face and the voice of that in the second Bush administration term. Then I went back to my home state of Texas. I actually got into the renewable energy development business for 10 years. But as things continue to evolve on the nuclear front, and as it relates to advanced nuclear power, I saw an opportunity. I saw a business opportunity. I got the chance to join xEnergy, and here I am. Back in an industry that I truly love, for the transformative role it can have in the world.
Yeah, you mentioned your background also with Senator Pete Domenici, and he was just was an incredible person and leader. And so I know that you were involved in the Energy Policy Act of 2005, and so I'm just kind of curious to learn a little bit more. There was a next generation nuclear power plant program back then, and maybe tell us a little bit about, that history and how that has impacted your leadership at xEnergy.
That was a really important program. It was authorized in the Energy Policy Act of 2005, which I had a significant role in, both at the White House, and then it was actually enacted into law when I was Deputy Secretary of Energy. And so we had a significant role in it. The Next Generation Nuclear Plant Initiative was actually an initiative that really came out of from the Idaho delegation to deploy a very high temperature gas reactor at Idaho National Lab on a prototype basis that could demonstrate the use of nuclear power to also efficiently produce hydrogen. And that program, although it never resulted in the construction of the plant, it went a long way in both qualifying the fuel that xEnergy uses in its reactors today, and identifying a lot of really important regulatory issues and resolving those regulatory issues that make our licensing path more attractive and lower risk for xEnergy today. So it's one of those strange circles in life. You work on something 15 years ago, and then you really see the huge benefit to my company today.
Yeah, what just an incredible background and history. So let's focus on xEnergy now. I mean, tell us about xEnergy and what are you guys focused on? What makes you unique?
Well, what we're focused on really is capturing the massive business opportunity that exists globally for advanced nuclear power. And this is not religion for me. This is a business opportunity. There is two factors that are fundamentally, kind of underpin the business opportunity we see. Number one is the dramatic increase in global energy demand that we're going to see over the next 30 years. Some predict a 50% increase in global energy demand. At the very same time, investors and customers and governments on a global basis are demanding the decarbonization of the energy infrastructure. There is no way to both meet the increasing energy demand and decarbonize the global economy without a massive build out of nuclear power. So that's the opportunity we see. And our objective all along at xEnergy has been to be the first generation 4 next generation reactor to the marketplace in the United States, to demonstrate that we can produce these reactors on a very attractive timescale for the owners and at a cost that will be highly attractive and ultimately, competitive to natural gas generation here in the United States. We believe that when we do that, the world will beat a path to our door, and we will sell literally hundreds of xEnergy reactors around the world in the decades to come. So it's all business. We are driven by the business opportunity that we see.
Yeah, it's encouraging to hear. And as you said, I mean, as we've looked so deeply at this issue, it's just it's an incredible, almost a once in a generation opportunity for transitioning the market and really building just incredible market value. But so a little bit more just specifically on your technology, you talk about this XE100 reactor. Can you tell us about what that is, and is that designed to power a house, or it's probably not a house? It's is it a neighborhood? Is it a community? Is it a military base? Or are we talking like cities here, or you're all the above?
The XE100 it's a module that produces 80 megawatts of electric power. It's a reactor, steam generator, turbo genset module. And in our commercial configuration, we put 4 of those together. So it produces 320 megawatt electric that shares a common control room, common spent fuel, fresh fuel storage and handling facilities, common switch yard, plant infrastructure. Our optimized commercial plant is 320 megawatts of electric. And you can think about that as providing power for approximately 300,000 American homes. So it's a pretty significant size nuclear power plant, and it's really ideal for replacing fossil fuel plants that are phasing out of the inventory. It's ideal for replacing coal plants, and it will also be attractive even as nuclear power plants that are currently in the inventory in the United States and around the world. As those existing plants phase out, the XE100 will be an attractive option.
Yeah, and so you talk about it being modular, and I think you mentioned a 4-pack. So it sounds like you've got an 80 megawatt module, but then you talk about it in this 4-pack configuration. Are you looking to sell these in single packs, or is the 4-pack kind of the optimal? What makes that the sweet spot for you?
Well, it's just economics. It's more economic for 4 modules to share the common plant infrastructure than a single module to bear all of the costs of the plant infrastructure. But we did a trade study early on, and kind of 300 megawatt electric is the optimal size. That's what we saw that the marketplace was needing. That's what customers are wanting. And so that's really what drove our design to get to that number. But we can scale it up. You can buy initially 4 modules for 320 megawatt electric. If you want to add a 5th module to take it to 400, or 2 more modules to take it to 480, you can operate the plant and be adding on in a modular basis while you're operating the plant. And so it gives tremendous flexibility to the owner to size his power generation capacity as his load is growing.
Gotcha. And what about manufacturing? I mean, so I would imagine there's some advantage to being able to, basically carbon copy these modules one after the other. But talk about a little bit about, manufacturing, and how do you guys think about that? And And can you how much of these modules can you manufacture here in the United States or with our allies?
Drew, I mean, you read my mind. One of the things that drove us to this particular size, the 80 megawatt electric module, is that is a size that gives us a broad variety of industrial fabricators to make our modules. If you go huge, there are only one or two foundries in the world that can make the largest forgings for nuclear power plants, and we did not want to be captive to one or two foundries anywhere in the world. From a market power standpoint, we wanted a size that would have that we could procure from a wide array of sources here in the United States and globally. We wanted a size that could be shipped on a truck over the road. So this is not, we don't have parts that have to come in on a barge to a site. We can ship them over the road on a truck. And that was a key citing. I mean, that was a key factor in determining the size of our units. Both access to the widest variety of supply chain participants and the ability to ship all of these on a truck over the road.
Yeah, it's really smart, I think. I mean, not to oversimplify it, but it sounds like sort of the Lego strategy, if you will. It's like, how do you get these built simply, and so you can add on additional blocks and move them around as needed.
But there's something else that's really unique about our technology that helps us. Our technology is a pebble bed, so this is our fuel form that we use. It has uranium enriched to 15.5%, and that uranium is encapsulated in ceramic material and graphite, and that really does two things that are really important. It ensures that this fuel form can never melt, because graphite and ceramics don't melt at any of the temperature scenarios they would see in the reactor. And number two, this fuel form retains 99.999% of the waste that's produced during burnout. And so we take this incredibly robust fuel form and we put it in a reactor that is designed to make it physically impossible to melt down. Now, when you have a reactor that cannot melt down, all of a sudden that produces huge benefits as to what you construct, because we do not have to build all of the safety related systems that are required for traditional light water reactors. All of those systems that would kick in if a reactor lost its coolant and was at risk of melting down. So we have a much simpler design. I mean, and when I say simpler, it has 1/10 the number of parts and components that a traditional light water reactor has. So a simpler design, a smaller design, a design that can be shipped over the road, and a design that has many more commercial off-the-shelf parts on it than a traditional light water reactor. So all of these factors will operate to make a reactor not just safer. I mean, is it safer? Of course it's safe. It's safer. But existing light water reactor plants are incredibly safe. The huge benefit of our design is it makes it much more economic to build. And that's the exciting innovation that we look forward to bringing to the marketplace.
Yeah, you mentioned, I mean, obviously safety is just a critical point when it comes to nuclear energy. And so, you kind of, read my mind a little bit there in terms of how does the nuclear industry, and particularly xEnergy, think about and what does your technology do to address safety? So, I mean, it sounds like you guys have built that into your engineering and to your business plan. Is that enough? I mean, can the public get over this safety concern? I mean, and just curious, as you go out and around the world and, selling your technology, what kind of pushback are you getting, if any, on this? Because, are we just going to always have people that no matter how much you convince them that the science is real about the safety, they're just never going to want it? Or, what kind of, give us a sense of the temperature of your, customers and where they live and eat, and just what's that like?
Look, nuclear power I think has never been as well received um, than it is today. There was a poll actually done last year that showed 76% of Americans were favorable towards the growing role of nuclear energy, in the United States.
Hmm.
Interestingly, when you look at that polling data, the closer you get to nuclear power plants, the more receptive those communities are, which in a lot of ways that makes sense. I mean, communities around existing nuclear power plants or existing nuclear facilities are typically very well informed. They have an economic interest in the plant. They've made themselves aware of the risks and the mitigants associated with these plants. But it's my view that that these plants are going to be very well received in the communities. We respect the social compact. We realize that we have to make the case and earn the right from the community to operate in their community. I've been on the road a lot. We have a project in development in Washington State. We're engaging with our community there, and we've received very, very favorable feedback, not just about nuclear generally, but specifically the safety case of our plant and how important that is to the community. Among the consequences of not having to, among the consequences of a plant that cannot melt down, we have there's some very direct benefits to the community. For example, our emergency planning zone. For large light water reactor plants, you think of kind of 50-mile or 25-mile radius exclusion zones where certain emergency planning functions have to occur. But when you have a plant that can't melt down, when you have a plant where there is no scenario where radiation or radionuclides could ever leave the plant boundary, all of a sudden that reduces dramatically the emergency planning zone. It reduces dramatically the impacts on the communities. And those are things that we've enjoyed explaining to communities, and they are buying into our technology, and the kinds of citizens will be in their communities.
Yeah, I think that's such a critical point that you mentioned in terms of this kind of zone. You've got a technical term for it, but I think it's sort of the safety zone. It's
the emergency planning zone, EPZ.
Okay, all right, emergency planning zone. So when it comes to your technology, it's 80 megawatts. So it's a smaller module. How many acres is that about?
Well, for our 4-module plant, our standard commercial offering, that's going to take about 22 acres.
22 acres. Okay. All right. Yeah. So
it's very small. I mean, as it relates to industrial power plant sizes, it's very small.
Yeah. I mean, just thinking about that safety zone, I mean, it is, 22 acres, times, I guess, whatever the circle is you have to draw around it. But to your point, you don't really have to draw a circle around it because it's technology that if it fails, it will not harm anybody.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's just real fascinating. I mean, what keeps other companies from jumping into this technology themselves? I mean, do you guys have patents on that technology, or what is your kind of protective strategy on that?
We're both a reactor designer and a fuel manufacturer. A lot of our fuel manufacturing techniques are in fact protected by patent. Our reactor technology at this stage is largely protected by trade secret. When we get further into detailed design and final design, we will patent some aspects, but today it's largely protected by trade secret. Our competitive advantage and our comparative advantages, we're just far ahead. We're much further ahead than many of our competitors.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be in the marketplace by 2027. And it's not just the technology that we own, it's not just the intellectual property we own, but it's the team that we have, and it's our manner of delivering these systems and the knowledge behind the manner of delivering these systems and the intellectual property that we produce that give us our competitive go forward advantage.
You mentioned the folks in the Northwest, the Pacific Northwest, and you guys have a partnership agreement that you've just recently signed with the Department of Energy's Advanced Reactor Demonstration Program. And I gather there's a Energy Northwest partnership that's a result of that. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, there was an initiative in the Congress to get the United States back into the nuclear export game by demonstrating advanced reactor technologies. And they put multiple billions of dollars on the table. They asked the department to run a competition, and the department ran a competition for advanced reactor vendors like us to partner with utilities and present plans that would allow for the commercial demonstration of these technologies by 2027. And the winner of that contest would receive the benefit of a 50-50 cost share from the government. So a public-private effort to demonstrate technologies. So this initiative was launched in 2020. 37 different companies made proposals to the Department of Energy. At xEnergy, we teamed with Energy Northwest in Washington State to demonstrate our reactor on a site, on an existing site adjacent to an existing power plant that they operate, the Columbia Generating Station, which is a boiling water reactor, light water reactor plant in Washington State. It's the only nuclear power plant in the Pacific Northwest. So on on that site, just not far away, we've designated 22 acres where we will build to demonstrate an XE100 plant by 2027. The other winner of that was TerraPower, a molten salt reactor company that's really been that was founded by Bill Gates. So TerraPower and xEnergy will be the first two companies to demonstrate, and we were very pleased and honored to be selected by the Department of Energy, and they are a great partner with us in this effort.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, congratulations. That's a big win. And so it sounds so. And just make sure I caught it. So 2027 is when we can look for that first reactor to be working. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, electrons on the grid in 2027.
Electrons on the grid. All right. I'll put it on my calendar. That's going to be good. That's going to be exciting. Just want to think about the energy production side of things. So you guys have a fuel reactor design company as a part of your strategy. And then another part of your strategy is this fuel production company. And so help me connect those dots. I mean, you mentioned and held up.
Yeah, a lot of people design reactors, and there are 50 different advanced reactor design companies, kind of in the marketplace today. A lot of times when you ask them, okay, where are you going to get your fuel from? They say, somebody will make it whenever we need it. And we just decided, our company from the beginning, and this is really a tribute to our founder, a guy named Cam Gaffarian, who is not of this industry. I mean, he made his fortune in the space business, but he decided to get into nuclear power, and he's been intensely focused on deployment. And when you're intensely focused on deployment, it is unacceptable to take the position of, hey, we're going to design the reactor and somebody else hopefully will design the fuel that we put in it. So we decided 6 years ago that we would take fuel off the critical path, that we would take control of it, and that we would figure out the best possible way to produce this TRISO fuel that is needed in our reactor. And quite frankly, it's needed in a lot of different advanced reactor designs. This fuel is called TRISO fuel, and a lot of reactors use TRISO fuel because it is so robust, it is so safe, it is so attractive. And so, we put together a team to reinvent the process of making TRISO fuel. We've demonstrated that in conjunction with the Department of Energy in a pilot fuel facility at Oak Ridge National Lab. The technology that we demonstrated and that we've made fuel in at Oak Ridge National Lab will be the prototype for our commercial fuel facility that we will start construction on in late 2024. We'll put in our license application to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission this year for that fuel facility. And it'll be the first new fuel facility in the United States in over 50 years.
Hmm. Yeah, it's just incredible. I mean, you guys are taking on just a big challenge, but it sounds like you really have risen to the challenge. I mean, I know you've grown tremendously as a company, and certainly love the idea of owning that fuel supply chain, if for no other reasons, for our own national security purposes. But
And our fuel company is really representative of Cam Gafarian's model. I mean, we've been successful time and again in attracting, you know, the very best people to run our various initiatives and divisions. So when it came to fuel, we hired a guy named Dr. Pete Papano out of the Department of Energy. He came from Oak Ridge National Lab. He had produced this fuel for the next generation nuclear plant initiative back in the in the aughts. And so again, you know, xEnergy is directly benefiting from the work done for the next generation nuclear plant. That work, qualified fuel, Pete made that fuel. And when we decided to get into the fuel business 6 years ago, Pete was the natural guy to run it, and he's built a fantastic team at our fuel company. Our fuel company, we spun it out this past year. It's called TriSoX, and it's headquartered down in Oak Ridge, Tennessee.
oh, okay, all right. Well, that's good. So you guys are already commercializing technologies and certainly utilizing the world's best national labs here in the United States, which is good to hear. You're also working on a mobile reactor that you call the XE Mobile. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What is that?
That's a project that we're working on under contract for the Department of Defense. The DoD recognized after the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan that they had a specific need to develop a more resilient power source at forward operating bases. There was a Defense Science Board study that came out in 2016, which recommended very small modular reactors for such a purpose. So the Strategic Capabilities Office, which is a special R&D bureau at the Department of Defense, launched an effort to design micro mobile reactors. And so we're talking about reactors. You can think in terms of a reactor that would replace, you know, kind of a megawatt scale diesel generator. And so they asked for designs of something between 1 to 3 megawatt electric, something that could be flown in a C-17 to a site, something that could be set up in 3 days, could be operated for 3 to 5 years without refueling, and then could be shut down, cooled off, moved to another location, and restarted, you know, in just a matter of days. So it's an extraordinary set of requirements. We have an amazing team at xEnergy that put together a concept, proposed that to the Department of Defense. Again, this was a competitive process. 9 different companies made proposals. Ultimately, 3 companies were selected to produce a preliminary design. You can think of that as kind of 30% design complete. We did that. And then our company and another company, 2 of us were selected to produce a final design. We'll complete that within the next year. And we'll be prepared to prototype that design with the Department of Defense in the 2024 timeframe.
All right, you got a lot on your plate. So, I mean, it's just so interesting to hear and encouraging. You know, I know all of these efforts lead to, you proving your safety, you proving your ability to manufacture, and then from a cost competitiveness standpoint, I know the market's gonna demand that, right? I mean, you've got to have clean energy, you got to have it safely, and you got to have it cost competitively. I mean, do you guys have? Surely you do, but I mean, how do you think about your cost targets? And like, is that kind of a number, or is that a range, or is that a kind of a market area where you've got to be cost competitive with such and such technology or source, or how do you think about that?
No, I think about it all the time. I mean, because we're in this for business, right?
Yeah.
And we have to produce. We have to have technology that allows our customers to produce power at a competitive rate, and so we have cost targets that that our customers, many announced customers, many potential customers that we have not yet announced, that they find attractive. And if you think of, today the price of natural gas is around $6. That's in the front month contract. If you consider an efficient natural gas combined cycle, that would produce power in the $40 to $45 range. There's risk associated with that natural gas power plant because the prospect of some form of future carbon regulation, or a demand from customers that they do not want, that they want carbon-free power. So when you take that $45 price and you put a carbon risk factor on top of that, kind of whatever you think the future social cost of carbon would be, that produces a number that we at xEnergy are highly confident that we will demonstrate that we will be well below that. That's the value proposition that we present to utilities here in the United States, that we present to utilities in Canada, that we present to utilities in Eastern Europe, Southwest Asia, and around the globe. And that's I won't get into too much detail, but except to say the reason that we've been so successful in earning business and capturing business is because of the state of our design and the confidence that our prospective customers have in our ability to produce that design, produce that plant on a timeline and at a price that will prove to be very attractive for them. Nuclear power, there've been, nuclear power is highly desired in the marketplace. I mean, despite what people may think, it's highly desired. The problem in the last 40 years have been nuclear power plant projects have been traditionally over budget and over cost. And that's made traditional customers unwilling to build as many nuclear plants as the world needs. Our technology and our particular approach, I mean, going back to the simplicity of our design and our meltdown proof design, our technology lends itself to a much more efficient construction schedule and a much more efficient cost structure that we are confident we'll be able to break kind of the trend of the last 40 years for nuclear power plants. That's what we're going to show at Energy Northwest by 2027. And that we believe will be the first of many, many nuclear power plants that xEnergy develops around the world.
It's just incredible future. And obviously you guys, I mean, you're in the future business. I mean, you're inventing the future right now. You're in the process of deploying the future of nuclear energy. I mean, I just applaud, all your progress that you've made so far. And a couple of things. One, I just want to put a plug in, so this interview is actually, we're promoting as a part of Nuclear Science Week, which is October 18th through the 22nd. And so, one, I would just say to our, watchers and listeners out there, if you've ever at all thought you might be interested in science, check out xEnergy. This is the kind of company that is inventing the future. And then my question, to farther in the future, you've mentioned space. You mentioned your founder and his background having come from the space industry. So, just taking a quick look at your website, you've got space on your website. So you guys are not only in the nuclear business, but you're thinking about nuclear as it relates to space. So help us understand that. I mean, that's just an exciting opportunity, it sounds like.
Well, we have an amazing set of individuals, that compose our company. I mean, these are some of the brightest people in the world, and there are many applications for nuclear power in space, and a lot of people don't realize it, but we've been flying nuclear reactors in space since the early 1960s, and there are 3 classic applications that we're focused on today that we're very excited about. First, if humans want to go to Mars, you have to have a nuclear powered rocket, period. And so we have a number These designs are called nuclear thermal propulsion systems that we have a design under development for just that purpose. The second application is if you want to have a permanent base on the moon, staffed and populated by humans, you need to have a power source that can survive the lunar night. And the lunar night is 14 Earth days long. And so solar panels and batteries will not get you through the lunar night. And so NASA has a program to develop a electric grid for the moon that it would be powered by a nuclear fission system. And so we're pleased to be working on that. And then there's another design, nuclear electric propulsion systems that are required for deep space exploration. So these are all incredibly exciting initiatives, quite frankly, pretty sexy initiatives, things that people love to join our company to work on. And again, it's been part of our ability to recruit the very best in our industry to xEnergy, to work on these projects.
Yeah, well, again, just congratulations. I'm excited to see all of your future progress in the near term, 2027, and in the long term, whatever we end up doing in Mars. I mean, it's just an incredible journey, and I'm impressed how you've been able to connect all the dots from your background to all that's needed to building a company and commercializing a very complicated technology, right? A very complicated industry, but figuring out a way to chart a path to simplify things. And as you said, I mean, the ability to attract the talent that you've got at your company is just incredible. So congratulations.
Well, there is a lot of science behind it, but I like the word that you used. I mean, we've simplified the technology. We have an elegant solution that's relatively easy to build and deploy, and we're really excited about bringing it to the marketplace in Washington State first. Hopefully thereafter in Canada, other locations around the United States, and then around the world.
Yeah, well, Clay, thank you so much for just sharing with us your journey and where you are right now, and more about your company. And I suspect we'll be hearing a whole lot more about xEnergy in the future. All good, and so just again, thanks so much for spending time with us today.
And Drew, let me thank you and C3 Solutions for your leadership. And this is an exciting time where policymakers, customers, and participants in the capital markets are coming together, all to support a lower carbon future. And I'm pleased by the progress that we're seeing, the acceleration of the progress, and the important leadership role that you and C3 are providing. So